Good evening. Welcome to Grand Blanc Township Board meeting for Tuesday, March 18th. If we could all rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Rick Robertson, will you please call the roll?
I would be happy to call the roll, Mr. Supervisor. Trustee Fike is absent. Trustee White?
Here.
Trustee Hugo?
Here.
Treasurer Yancho?
Here.
Myself, of course, I'm here. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes, present.
5 members present, a quorum.
Thank you. And now move to have somebody, or I'll entertain a motion, approve the agenda. Ms. Hugo makes that motion.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Yancho.
Agenda, motion by Hugo, supported by Yancho. Let's see. Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
5-0. Motion passes.
Thank you. And now we will open the floor for any public comment. Anybody wishing to make a comment, we invite you to come to the podium. 3 minutes, please. Name and address on the form. Seeing no public comment, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. And at this time, we have a public hearing. And it's a public hearing to take comments on General Ordinance 2025-1, which is Parks and Recreation Ordinance. Do we have somebody that's going to discuss that, or?
We've had the first read of it. We advertised it as a public hearing. And at this time, anybody who would wish to make comment about the creation of the ordinance for Parks and Recreation, it will be on for second read and adoption later in the agenda. So it's really just to take public comment if there is any, and if not, then you can close the public hearing and move on.
Okay,
Opening the hearing at 6:02, Mr. Supervisor.
thank you. Anyone here wish to make comment on the General Ordinance 2025-1 regarding Parks and Recreation? Anybody here for comment? Seeing no public comment, we'll close public comment. Clerk Robertson?
Okay, we're closing the public hearing at 6:03 p.m.
Okay, thank you. And now I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, if somebody cares to make that motion.
So moved.
Okay. Ms. Hugo makes that motion, supported by Treasurer Yancho.
Motion by Hugo, supported by Yancho on the consent agenda. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0. Motion passes.
Thank you. Number 7, under old business, the board will review the superintendent's recommended candidate to fill the vacant fire chief position and consider a motion to authorize the superintendent to negotiate an employment agreement as part of the conditional offer of employment. Yes, Superintendent.
So, Mr. Supervisor, thank you. This evening, Mr. Jamie Gent is here, and just to bring everybody back through the process, after Chief Burdett's retirement at the end of 2024, we started the process. We had 32 candidates total, I believe. We set up the first interview panel and went through, I think, 18 questions. At that time, chose some to move on to a second interview. Those candidates came back. Part of that second panel, we had, thank you to the City of Troy Fire Chief who participated in it, the Deputy Director for the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police, myself, Chief Bill Rennie was in on the panel, and HR Manager Colleen Nedzwicki. After going through a bunch of extensive questions and some questions that they answered ahead of time, I'm really happy to announce that we do have a candidate that's risen to the top and has been a recommendation to come before the board. I have provided the background to the board. Chief Gent is just retired this year from the Dearborn Fire Department, brings to Grand Blanc Township a wealth of knowledge in a lot of drive and a lot of vision for where the fire service should be. And with that, what I'd like to do is bring him up to the podium, have him give a brief introduction of himself and his background to the board, and then the board can ask questions of him, until you're satisfied or you prepared to make a decision, move out of the way. So, Jamie, if you would, come up to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jamie Gent. I've been in the fire service for 27 years. I've been in Dearborn for 24 years. I started off as a probationary firefighter there, worked up through the suppression ranks, up through engineer. I took a administrative position into the training division where I was the battalion chief of training. I was there for 12 years, where I oversaw the probationary training program of 120 firefighters. We were merged with the city of Melvindale, where we increased our ranks to 151 firefighters during that time. I've also served on the union executive board as a secretary there for 12 years, so I have a background serving on union negotiations and collective bargaining as far as that goes. I have a public service administration's degree from Siena Heights University. I'm also going through the organizational leadership program there to get my master's degree. And I hope to bring all that knowledge to improve the Grand Blanc Township Fire Department and continue on with the already excellent services that they provide for the township.
Very good. Very impressive. I think what we'd like to do at this time is our board has some questions. And I think what we're going to do is start with Mr. Yancho, but if you could pick one question, and then we'll go to Ms. Hugo, and then we'll come down here to Mr. White, and we'll continue on.
My question is, what role do you think the fire department should play in community outreach and fire prevention education?
I think they got to be at the forefront. They have to be the figurehead as far as fire safety goes in the community. They already are very involved in that aspect so far, but it could always be improved. In Dearborn, we started off as going into the senior high rises there in the city, and I think we can improve that aspect in Grand Blanc Township. So as proactive as they can be, the fire service should take every opportunity to do so.
Ms. Hugo?
Thank you.
Share with the board what you hope to accomplish in the first year as our new fire chief.
In the first year, I hope to just get acclimated to the township, get familiar with the various department heads, the township board, the firefighters and the officers that are in the fire department, get familiar with the facilities, the apparatus, try to get any improvements that I can get right away that aren't going to cost the city a lot of money or a lot of time. Try to get as many checkoffs as I can get right away, improvements, get some input from the firefighters and the officers of the fire department, see any improvements that they want to see that they haven't seen up to this point, and see what I can accomplish as fast as I can possibly accomplish those for the firefighters and the officers that are already here.
Mr. White?
How do you plan on managing a department that is a mixture of full-time firefighters and volunteer firefighters?
I don't see any differentiations between the two. They're firefighters. They come here, they have a job to do, just like I don't see any differentiations between part-time and full-time. They come here, they have a service to provide, they have duties to uphold, and I don't have any problems or see any problems with it at all.
Okay. Clerk Robertson?
We're building a new fire hall here. We're in the process.
hear.
of that. I presume that came up in conversations. Are you excited about it, and what are your thoughts on our plans?
Well, it saves me a lot of work, so I'm excited about that. So I'm excited about that opportunity to move into a new building. It's exciting for the township. It's exciting for the fire department. It's exciting for the firefighters and the officers that are here. I'm excited to look into possibly improving the other fire station for the township and seeing what we can do to improve that station, to improve the response capabilities as far as that station goes as well.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Could you describe what you believe are key attributes that are required for success here in Grand Lake Township as fire chief?
I think you got to focus on accountability, first of all. You set the standard for accountability, and then that increases focus on leadership in the fire department. When you can increase the focus on leadership in the fire department, you can start to develop that leadership within the fire department, and the risk kind of just falls in line right on down through the ranks. You kind of set the expectation at the top. Hopefully you model that behavior starting at the top, and everybody can see that and just fall in line with that and see that I'm here to improve the fire department. I'm here to improve the culture, that I am here to listen to them. I have empathy. I believe in the fire department. I believe in the job that they're here to do. I'm here to improve the fire department for them, and I'm going to do everything that I can do to improve the fire department for them and make it a better place, and hopefully turn the fire department into a place where other firefighters want to come and work and expand this fire department.
Okay. Mr. Yancho, you want to choose one of the others as well?
Yes, recruiting and retaining firefighters is an extremely challenging role for the fire department. How do you plan to entice new firefighters to the township and retain the firefighters currently on our force?
Building on just what I said earlier, I think it starts with, first of all, pay and benefits is a big thing. If you can improve pay and benefits, is number one in my book, is where you start. And then you start off with that leadership development, and you can show other area fire departments that you are investing in your employees in their career development, and showing that they can come to Grand Blanc Township Fire Department and make a career out of the Township Fire Department and spend 25 years here and retire from here and have a great career in Grand Blanc Township and attract other area firefighters from other area fire departments to come here and work and spend their careers here.
Thank you.
Ms. Hugo?
How will you serve as an advocate for the fire department in the community and ensure strong support from local businesses and residents?
Well, being the fire chief, you're the figurehead of the fire department, so you got to be in front and center of those initiatives. You just can't order other people to do it. You have to believe in it. You have to be leading those initiatives and believe in them. You have to be leading. You have to be front and center of everything that you're doing. You just can't talk about it. You have to prove it and show it. That way the fire department believes in it as well, and they know that you're committed to it and believe in it. That way they'll follow suit.
Thank you.
Mr. White?
What's your relationship going to be with neighboring communities, neighboring fire departments?
When I started off in Dearborn, we were the big kid on the block. We didn't call for mutual aid. We didn't provide mutual aid. We didn't believe in mutual aid. We didn't want it. That was the mentality when I started there. I didn't understand it coming from a smaller fire department when I started there. And I didn't get the cockiness of that attitude at all. And when I came into the training division, that was the first thing that I started on, is working with our neighbors and trying to improve that relationship with them. And it started off with training initiatives, working them with training, and that led into auto aid agreements, mutual aid agreements. Then it led to confined space agreements. Then it turned into technical rescue agreements with other cities, and we just built on that, and it turned into where now Dearborn is ingrained into every aspect of downriver mutual aid, Western Wayne mutual aid. Now we don't even think about it. So anytime you can improve those relationships with your neighbors, not only does it improve the areas around you. It improves your fire department, it improves your relationships with other fire departments, it improves your relationships with the firefighters that surround your communities, it improves your relationships with the community. So I'm all about building those relationships and improving those relationships.
Clerk Robertson?
We're I pretty much covered everything. Okay, Mr. Supervisor?
Well, I'll go over it. It's basically one last
Real
question.
Okay.
Knowing that our board, our township's very oriented towards strategic planning, and it helps us with the outcomes, right? If we plan on where we're going. Can you share a little bit about your vision as far as the future for Grand Blanc Township Fire Department, what that may look like down the road?
I think to start off, you have to, before you even get that far ahead, you have to see where you're at baseline with the fire department. And you have to, I have an idea in my head where I would like the fire department to go. But before I even want to make those things public, I want to get input from the firefighters and the officers and from the township on where they want to see the fire department going before I even start to talk about that stuff. I want to have input from everybody. That way we can all be on the same page and then work towards that goal together.
I like that answer. Very good. So, Mr. Limita, you have any questions?
I think Jamie's probably sick of answering my questions through the process. Quite frankly, he did stand out from the crowd, and obviously his background speaks for itself. My recommendation remains that the board would consider Chief Gent to be the next fire chief for Grand Blanc Township Fire Department. And if you guys agree, it would require a motion authorizing me as superintendent to negotiate an employment agreement with Chief Gent. And he's already filling out the paperwork on the background process. As you guys know, is pretty extensive for Grand Blanc Township. And Jamie's learning that as he's just been inundated with the paperwork for it.
And it's only 17 pages, so it's fine.
So it's not bad.
It's when you see the police car parked out in front that you know you're really,
You're not going to believe what your first grade teacher told us about you. But the good news was you always wanted to be a firefighter, though. That was helpful. So really, if the board concurs, I mean, really, it's in your court now. We can go back to the drawing board. You can see other candidates, or you can accept my recommendation, move us forward.
Given the interview process, the extensive interview process that you conducted, Superintendent, I got to believe that, I know the competition was tough, and with 30-some applicants, I know that there were a number of people in that group that to choose from. While the board may, this is one of the few positions that the board does hire, I think this board has shown that, we place our confidence in your ability to create a team here and a culture that is a group that can work together and get things done. And so I'd like to make a motion to authorize you to negotiate an employment agreement as part of the conditional offer of employment.
Motion by Bennett,
Yes.
Support.
Support by Ms. Hugo.
support by Hugo on item 7A. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we look forward to working with you. So,
You as well.
okay.
Welcome aboard.
And I see we have a couple of firefighters here to welcome you, so. With that, I also want to say thank you to our fire department, since before all you guys leave, the very courageous work that our fire department did this past week, and you know.
Every week.
Every week, but especially this past week with the ice rescue. We don't run into those situations very often, thankfully, but very dangerous situation, and we appreciate what you guys do, so thank you. I know that was a tough situation. And our condolences to the family that lost their father. So, moving on to new business. The board will consider a motion to approve the purchase of 3 2025 Chevrolet Tahoes with police package, four-wheel drive from Berger Chevrolet, which is part of the MyGov deals, which is a statewide buying program from Berger Chevrolet, for the amount of $163,161, and authorize the Township Superintendent to execute all agreements and purchase orders.
Yes.
Chief.
So this is for 3 2025 Chevrolet Tahoes through Berger Chevrolet, through My Deals. And this is something that we do every year. We cycle the old vehicles out, and that reduces maintenance costs on those vehicles that we have long-term. Once we cycle those vehicles out, they end up going into Gov Deals for auction, or they end up going into a pool car, the pool fleet. So that's what you have in front of you is for 3 2025 Chevrolet Tahoes, four-wheel drive.
I'll support it, but I'd like to see us do something. So our DPW department, our garage, our mechanics, actually, I don't know that everybody here has seen it besides maybe Dave and Mike, but our mechanics actually remove the entire interior of the vehicle, and then they wire it. It's just a tremendous, amazing work that they do. But I've told them, I said, you know what, I would like to have like a time-elapse photo of the stages that they go through, like when they get the vehicle in, a photo of the vehicle before they've stripped anything out. It's probably more for our DPW department than for our police, but I would love to see, something that shows the stages they go through, because it is amazing, the transformation from, bringing that car in from the dealership and transforming it into a police. I took my son through this past week, and just amazing with, the amount of technology that's in those police cars, and that our mechanics do it all.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, they stripped the entire thing down and built it right back up to look like a police car. And Nick and Kevin, they do a great job for us. They make everything consistent with doing that. So, and I think right now they're able to accomplish that within about 3 weeks. So they've been moving pretty good, and that's a tribute to Director Cooley there, making sure that they stay on task to do that. So good job by our DPW.
Mr. Yancho?
I'm building on that. When we send these vehicles out for auction, do we remove that technology from the vehicle?
Yes, sir, we do. Yeah. We remove everything to where it's pretty much just like a vehicle that the public would want to drive. So it does have a little bit of police features on it, that it's a lower profile, maybe with the spotlight that's attached to it, but that's about it.
And I suppose that in the time that those vehicles were in service, technology has advanced, so those materials are not reusable.
In some cases, they are. However, in the next motion that you will make, I could touch on that. But actually, with the new 2020, starting in 2024, those the lights, the cages inside of them, they were not able to go on to the 24 and 25 model Chevrolet Tahoe. So we do have to purchase new equipment. But for the most part, if we could keep it consistent, then we reuse them.
So,
Yeah.
two things on that. One is that as the model year changes, so the configuration of the inside of the car may
Yes.
change too. So, for example, the plastic seat that replaces the regular padded seats in the back where people that are arrested or what have you are sitting may have to be changed. Even, you talk to the mechanics, they'll tell you even the stuff they order in for the new vehicle has to have lots of adjustments made to it, that it doesn't just go right in. They a lot of times have to
Custom make it.
create
yeah.
their own brackets and whatever. But I just wanted to call attention to that. I think it's fabulous. I was telling Mr. Limita that it'd be great to have a time-elapse photo of how they take one of these Tahoes from the time it comes in from the dealership to all the stages that they go through for, I think it's very impressive what goes on there, but a lot of places hire it out. Mr. Yancho?
I know that quite often, unfortunately, our police vehicles are involved in damaged situations due to other drivers or whatever. I recently observed one of our cruisers with a smashed front end that sat out in the police lot for a while. Once a vehicle is damaged to that extent, are we able to return that to service, or is that no longer meet the safety requirements that we have?
Yeah, so if the insurance company says that it's totaled, I would always recommend to not replace that vehicle, because the last thing that we would want to do is put that vehicle back out where our officers are driving it. You know, they drive a lot of miles every single day, every single year, and a lot of those incidents or miles are over the speed limit to have a quick response. We would hate to see one of our own officers injured and then driving a salvage titled vehicle. So my recommendation would be to not do that on those type of incidents. But if the insurance company says that, you know, this is repairable, then we bring it into the shop, they fix it, and then we're good.
Okay.
Yeah,
And sometimes they have to sit out there until the insurance company does make a decision on it.
correct.
Okay, does anybody care to make the motion on these?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Supervisor.
Support.
Okay, support by Mr. Yancho.
Motion by myself, supported by Yancho on item 8A. Trustee White,
Yes.
Trustee Hugo,
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho,
Yes.
myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Item B, the board will consider a motion to approve the purchase of emergency equipment to be outfitted on the three 2025 Chevrolet Police Tahoes from Winder Police Equipment for $31,927.82. Approve the Township Superintendent to execute all agreements and purchase orders.
Yeah, so this one here is for that equipment that it will be equipped on those vehicles. Since this is a 2025 vehicle, we did have to order brand-new stuff. They can't transfer it from those old vehicles or old models. So this includes the lights, some of the cargo stuff that goes inside the back of our cruisers, the new partition that separates the officers from the suspect who is sitting inside the back, and also those plastic seats that go in the back.
I'll make the motion that we go ahead with that. Mr. White,
By Bennett,
support by White.
supported by White. Supported by White on item 8B. Trustee White,
Yes.
Trustee Hugo,
Yes.
myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho,
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Chief. Item C, the board will consider a motion to approve zoning case number 679 for Nabil Nanushi. Applicant is requesting PID 12-04-100-029, part of 12-4-100-030, and part of 12-04-100-002 to be rezoned from R3, which is single-family residential, to F1 Flexible Development 1.
Good evening.
Evening, Mr. Smith.
At the March 6, 2025 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commissioners voted 8-0 to recommend the zoning case number 675 from R3 to Flex 1 on the parcels that you already mentioned. The purpose was for commercial development not previously allowed in the R3 zoning. The Planning and Zoning Department would recommend a motion for approval on the parcels from R3 to Flex 1. In your packet, you have the maps and my review from the Planning Commission meeting. The use that is requested is a restaurant on the old Loch Lomond Golf Course. Mr. Nanoshi is looking to turn that into a restaurant. A restaurant needs some sort of commercial zoning. The Flex 1 that is approved on the future land use map does provide for that zoning use.
That area along Dort, you know, we're putting our fire department and our DPW building on that section, and there's some other things happening on Dort Highway to improve it. I know the road itself needs to be improved because it's absolutely hideous, but I'm kind of glad they're waiting till after the construction maybe, but I would like to see a left turn lane in there, but, you know, that Loch Lomond has sat empty for so long, and that golf course, basically is in a floodplain, so trying to build anything on there is next to impossible. The problem with tearing a lot of those buildings down along Dort is that they probably would never be allowed to be rebuilt because there's not a whole lot of space between Dort Highway and, you know, where it drops off and into a floodplain.
Correct.
So, you know, if we can help somebody to repurpose those buildings along Dort, there's several others too that I'd like to see do something. In fact, Mr. Smith and I were talking to another business owner right near there about either rehabbing their building or tearing it down and putting up a new one. And along that Dort Highway stretch, if there's anything that we can do to help rehab that area, I'm going to be all ears. So,
Agreed.
so I would be in favor of this, but any questions from any board members? Okay, you care to you're making the
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve the
Okay.
rezoning.
Support by Ms. Hugo. Mr. White, anything? Okay. All right, well, Clerk Robertson?
Yes, certainly. Item 8C. Motion, the motion again was by your,
No, motion was by Mr. Biancho, support
by
by
Yan-
Ms. Hugo.
by Hugo. Very good. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item D, the board will consider a motion to approve PUD 25-001 for Wiseman Realty LLC. Applicant is requesting to remove PID 12-22-100-002 from the Trillium Circle PUD. Mr. Smith?
Thank you. So at the same March 6th meeting, the Planning Commission also voted 8-0 to recommend approval for PUD-25-001. The applicant is requesting to remove the above-mentioned parcel from the Trillium Circle PUD for the purpose of development. The applicant intends to construct a Hyundai dealership on the site. The original PUD does not allow for vehicle sales as an approved use. In 2013, the Township Board allowed for Security Credit Union to be removed from the PUD due to strict signage requirements within the PUD. The Planning and Zoning Department would also recommend a motion for approval for parcel 12-22-100-072 to be removed from the Trillium Circle PUD for the purpose of development.
Is that 072? Because I got 002.
072.
Okay, we want to make sure we clarify that when we make the motion, but
Is that in addition to what is before us, Mr. Supervisor?
no, that is what's
It's
before us.
the original.
Okay, I just want to make sure I get the language right.
Correct.
Oh.
So that
Regard to the
should,
resolution.
I'm sorry, the agenda is incorrect. It should be 072.
so the applicant is requesting to remove PID 12-22-100-072.
Correct.
072?
Correct.
Very good. Very good.
I don't know how the resolution has it, but
All right. Is the motion in order, Mr. Supervisor?
it is unless.
Then I'll make that motion.
Okay. Mr. White?
A few questions.
Oh, forgive me.
Putting aside the specifics of this rezoning or removal of the PUD, if somebody wants to build a new car dealership, do they have to get a special land use permit?
Yes, so that would be the next step if this is approved. So they have a site plan review and special land use,
Would we be the ones who approves that, or would that just be the planning commission?
planning commission only.
And do we have any restrictions on the numbers of car dealerships in this township? Because I have to say that I've never heard anyone say that there's not enough car dealerships here. It just seems like we're approaching a critical mass of literally miles and miles of car dealerships.
At this time, no.
And how would we go ahead and put some sort of restriction? Would that have to be an ordinance amendment?
Yes. Just like we did with the gas station one a few months ago.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that one is a distance requirement, right?
Right, so it's not, you can't restrict, you can't exclude, but you can restrict. So we couldn't say no more dealerships. We could say, like we did with the gas stations, there could be a distance requirement from Any other that are existing, yes.
There couldn't be a cap on the total number.
Well, you could say they have to be a half mile from each other, or,
A mile and a half, mile, whatever we deem fit, yes.
right now, one of the restrictions for used car dealers is that they can't be within 500 feet of a residentially zoned property,
Correct.
which limits the number of used car dealerships, because believe me, if we allowed that, we would have probably half a dozen more. I could see a few Rite Aids turning into used car dealerships.
Yes.
So I'm glad we have that restriction as well. You old gas stations probably would have been turned into used car lots as well.
Yes.
Well, I'll support this, and I'll make the motion. I don't know if the motion's out. But, I guess I would just ask that maybe we revisit this distance issue in the future for the number of.
We can ask the planning commission to look.
I can make that one of our agenda items.
So just to be correct, trustee White, you'd like to make the motion on the item, and I'll offer support to that motion.
Okay.
Motion by White, supported by Robertson on item 8D. Trustee Hugo,
Yes. Excuse me, yes.
trustee White,
Yes.
myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho,
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Item E, the board will consider a motion to approve zoning case number 674P, additional signage requirements.
Yes, thank you. So at the March 6th meeting, we had a public hearing. They did recommend 8-0 vote again to approve the text amendment that you have in front of you. The reason for the requested change is I've had some site plans in the past, about 6 months, that have looked at constructing an absorbent amount of directional signage, and not just on buildings, but we're mostly focusing on the ones that can be placed on the ground throughout the site. So we wanted to have a number requirement, a size requirement, and a height requirement, and then additional signage based on the size of the lot could give them additional signage, but we're trying to control it so it doesn't look cluttered, just like we have other ordinances that are trying to keep things nice and tidy in the township. We don't want these sites to just be full of signage.
I think, one of the things that we're finding in society and in our communities is a lot more drive-through type activity.
Yes.
You go to the bank, you go to, restaurants, go dry cleaners, whatever. Everything is becoming that way. And, the signage and kiosks that people are going to be ordering from or what have you are going to probably only continue to expand their use, so.
This also, it will also be open for variance if a applicant can deem practical difficulty or hardship. If they need more than what's allowed for the ordinance, then they can have that avenue to seek.
Sure.
further.
Okay. Anybody care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Ms. Hugo,
Motion by Hugo,
support by Mr. White.
supported by Mr. White on item 8E. Trustee White,
Yes.
trustee Hugo,
Yes.
treasurer Yancho,
Yes.
myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes,
5-0, motion passes.
thank you. The board will hear, item F, the board will hear the first reading of Resolution 25-3 to amend the noise ordinance. Mr. Smith?
Thank you. So before Attorney Laddie retired the beginning of this year, him and I were discussing some ways that the noise ordinance could be amended due to some issues that we have going on in the township. If you look at section B2B on your second page, under exceptions, the only change under B would be number 4. Property owners can demonstrate the compliance with the terms of this ordinance is not reasonably possible, i.e. operation of landscaping equipment and golf courses and et cetera uses. We're trying to make things easier for my day-to-day operations. This is just one more thing that would help with code enforcement.
Mr.
And this
Biancho?
Would that also include agricultural activity?
So it's not specific, but if you can demonstrate that the, number four, if you can, property owners can demonstrate the compliance with the terms of the ordinance is not reasonably possible, then yes, that could be considered in there as well. But it doesn't specifically state it in there, as you can see.
Right, I see the et cetera.
Right.
Well, one of the things that, when you're looking at a place to live, I think most people look around the surroundings of where the home is. The challenge is if you move next to a vacant parcel, you might want to check out what the zoning is for that parcel.
Yes.
If it's wooded, is it going to stay wooded? If it's a factory, is it going to stay a factory? If it's a retail establishment, trucking company, whatever, golf course, and then consider what kind of activities happen there, and if you're comfortable with those activities, whether it's trucks coming in and out, whether it's lawnmowers, starting early in the morning. I think all those have to be considerations when you purchase a home. Living in a golf course, if you choose to do that, there's certain things that come with it. I mean, people start golfing early in the morning.
Excuse me, tee times are as early as 7 a.m.
Right, and that's nothing recent. I mean, that's basically how it works.
Right.
So I would be in favor of this ordinance. We've already had numerous golf courses go out of business in our community. If they're unable to conduct their business, it's going to be a hardship not only for them, but our entire community.
I'd like to add too, Mr. Supervisor, that Attorney Chubb has also reviewed the document, and he's in favor of it as well.
You've also, I know you don't have the documents here, but you've seen court rulings in regard to this too. Is that right, Mr. Smith?
Yes, Attorney Laddie provided some court documents that prove that where golf course had won cases in similar fashion for noise ordinance violations against them for normal operation of their business.
Right. So last thing we want to do is get into litigation between us and golf course here in the township over whether or not they have the ability to mow their property.
Right.
Mr. Yancho?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to have the second reading of Resolution 25-3 at the next available Township Board meeting.
Okay. Is there support? Support by Ms. Hugo.
Just a question. I'm not sure the motion is necessary. We're
Yes.
having a first reading now.
Is this the first reading, so,
This is the first reading, so wouldn't it be customary for us to have the second reading at our next meeting?
yes, but we need a motion to move it to the next meeting, because the next meeting will be a public hearing.
Okay, so the item before us, F, says, "The board will hear the first reading of Resolution 25-3 to amend the noise ordinance." I presume that's what we're doing right now.
Yes.
And with Mr. Yancho's motion, we'll move it to the second reading.
Okay.
So if it helps, Clerk Robertson, it's a motion to accept this as the first reading of the change or the update to the ordinance. And the motion includes place it on the next agenda or the
Next
next.
available
regular-
agenda, yes.
Next available agenda for the public
Correct.
hearing
Second
posting. yeah.
reading on, the date of our next meeting is what, April 2nd?
No, we,
Got it, I would say the next available agenda, because we have to have the ability to post for the public hearing. We need
Do the mailing and
10 days or whatever it
10
is.
days, I believe, so it'll probably be the April 15th meeting.
Okay.
If
to the next,
I
did you
remember
amend your
correctly.
motion, Mr. Yancho, to the next available
Yes,
meeting?
I'll amend the motion to reflect that.
To April,
The next available
Next
meeting.
available meeting. I don't want to set a date just yet.
next available, okay. Very good, I just want to be accurate.
Yes.
We appreciate that.
Sir.
Okay, empty. All right, with that clarification, we have item 8F. Do we have a motion,
Yes,
Supervisor?
there was a motion by Mr. Yancho,
Motion by Yancho,
and it was supported, I believe, by Ms. Hugo.
supported by Hugo, very good. Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho?
Yes,
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes,
5-0, motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item G, the board will consider a motion to approve Resolution 25-4 in support of the Recreation Passport Grant application and $150,000 in financial commitment, if awarded, for a pickleball court at Creasy Bicentennial Park. I noticed that Auburn Hills, an article with regard to a $15 million privately owned pickleball center that's being constructed, and several other communities that have large indoor pickleball, which would be nice eventually. But I don't think we're planning on enclosing ours quite yet. Is that correct, Ms. Roberts?
Good evening.
Good evening.
We're going to go with the $300,000 version of that, which is
Okay.
outdoors.
All right.
However, this pickleball court is pretty impressive. I put it in your packet. There are 4 different courts, and what we've been looking at, and of course, this is contingent on whether we get the grant or not, this has glass around it, which is great because of wind resistance when you're playing pickleball. It's a very, it's a very nice thing. And then also sound, so that it's not bothering the neighbors when they're out at the park. People make, as we know, people make sounds as they're hitting the ball, just like in tennis, so.
We're going to have to do another sound ordinance.
Yeah. Not with this glass.
If a motion is in order, Mr.
Yes.
Supervisor, I will make that motion on item 8, on item 8G.
Is there support?
Support.
Report from Yancho.
So go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Hugo.
So obviously the glass is going to be durable.
Correct. It's pickle glass.
Okay, that is.
Not just any old glass, it's pickle glass.
I've never heard of pickle glass.
Well, you wouldn't have unless you researched it, I don't think.
Thank you.
No, it looks absolutely
That's
fabulous.
awesome.
And I really hope we get the grant. I think one of the things that we've seen is that, pickleball is really picking up some steam. And, with our community having growing, and I know it isn't just seniors that are playing it, it's all ages.
Oh, it's all ages.
So that's one thing, is it's pretty inclusive activity, so that would be good. So let's hope that we get the grant.
Okay, very
Clerk
good.
Robertson?
Sean, do the roll call?
Yes, please.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Thanks for your work on the grant, too, Ms. Roberts and Mr. Kemmer. The item H, the board will consider a motion to approve the Genesee County Road Commission's proposal to limestone resurface Grove Avenue, Rhonda Street, and Edward Street with 3 inches of limestone, that is, for the total cost of $27,755.55. And we would authorize the township supervisor to execute all related contracts and documents.
Good evening.
Mr. Boggs?
Back in January, Dennis, Superintendent Limina, and Al, Director Cooley, and I met with the Road Commission annually for our 2025 road improvement plan. And these 3 gravel roads were brought up about needing resurfacing, using our 50/50 allocation money for it. I believe Grove was, some ditching work was started last year, so this will encompass the finishing of the ditching work also on Grove, I believe. But we would use our 50/50 allocation funds to resurface these roads, and also they're a part of our chloride program with the Road Commission that you already approved a couple meetings ago.
Okay. Mr. Yancho?
So this resurfacing would be done before the chloriding?
Yes.
And what do you suspect that the durability is of this resurfacing? How long do you think it?
I believe they usually try to go like 10, 15 years with it. Gravel roads have, yes, they're easier to maintain. They've always said that. They're cheaper to maintain because of, you're spending X
Right.
lane miles compared to asphalt.
I live on a
The
dirt.
chloride will lock that in there, so the material, you don't have the erosion and whatnot, so you won't lose the actual stone of the road. So and they'll regrade it over time
Right.
and stuff. But over time, you lose that due to erosion, so it needs material.
Well, that's a pretty good estimate on lifetime, so thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to move forward on that? Ms. Hugo? Support by Mr. White.
Motion by Hugo, supported by White on item 8H. Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Boggs. Item I, the board will consider a motion to approve the purchase of 30 replacement computers and monitors from Sahi? How do you pronounce?
I don't know. Sahi's.
We'll say it's
It's a
Sahi,
local
okay.
place.
C-Hi, Computer Products,
Probably
Inc.,
that.
for a total cost of $34,305. Additionally, the motion authorized the Township Superintendent to execute all related necessary contracts and purchase orders related to procurement.
So,
Good evening.
good evening. So this is a planned expense. It is not the entirety of my planned budget for this. I'll have some one-offs and things like that, but this is going to take care of the majority of what I need to replace this year for desktop computers. And the reason that we're doing it is mainly because of an end of life of the operating system for Windows 10. In October, they're no longer going to provide security updates for Windows 10. We've upgraded the majority of our machines here, but there are some that don't meet those requirements, and so we have to replace those. So we worked with a partner of HP's that is able to provide us a contractual or contract pricing for education and for governments, so we can get the lowest rate on it. It was almost, it almost went up by $150 per computer yesterday because of tariffs, but HP has agreed to honor the pricing. So faster we can do this, better.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Luceville?
If motion is in order, Mr. Supervisor, I'll make the motion on item 8I.
Support.
Motion by Robertson, supported
Yes.
by Yancho.
Yep.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Item J, the board will consider a motion to approve the procurement and installation of Cat 6 fiber and cabling, along with necessary infrastructure and equipment for the new DPW Fire Department facilities from Teoma Systems for $74,883.76. Authorize the Township Superintendent to execute all related contracts, documents, and purchase orders. Mr. Lucebell?
So this is, I do have a couple different motions on here that are separated into like their own project. So what this one is for all the cabling that are going to go from the network closets to the ports on the walls, punching those down, as well as the fiber connections that are going to go from our south barn along the service drive all the way to the new building that are going to connect the new building to our network here, as well as things like network racks and the battery backups or UPSs for the servers and network equipment. That's what this motion is covering.
Any questions, concerns? Their department does excellent work too. I'm always amazed at all the great stuff you guys do yourself here. I'll make that motion.
Motion by Bennett,
Support.
Support by Mr. White.
supported by Mr. White. Okay, Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Item K, the board will consider a motion to approve the procurement and installation of Algo paging system for the new DPW Fire Department facilities from Teoma Systems for $19,604.44, and authorize the Township Superintendent to execute all related contracts, documents, and purchase orders. Mr. Luceville?
So this is essentially a zoned, you'll have different zones. Essentially, it's overhead speakers and the ability to page different areas of the new building, including speakers that are going on the outside of the building and within the garages, so that if there's ever an emergency, those areas can be paged and people can be aware of what's going on.
Seems worthwhile, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes,
Item 8K. I'll make that motion, Mr. Supervisor.
okay. Support by Ms. Hugo.
Support by Hugo on item 8K. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes,
5-0. Motion passes.
thank you. Item L, the board will consider a motion to approve the renewal of annual licensing for Office 365 through CDW Government LLC for $50,868.45, and approve the Township Superintendent to execute all related agreement and purchase orders.
So this is a yearly expense for us that we're paying for yearly. It's nothing new. Although it is going up in price, as I was explaining the previous years as well, they can only increase government price by 10% a year. So their price increase that was like 3 years ago this is the last year. It's finally getting to what the private sector is paying already. So the cost of this did actually go up by 12.1% compared to the previous year. A lot of that is due to the price increase, but also because the number of licensing has increased because of the more employees. So that's why it's a little bit more expensive.
All right. Well, the cost of being technology-driven, I mean, everything's going to subscription-based services, right? Okay, does anybody have any questions or care to make the motion? Ms. Hugo makes the motion.
Makes the motion.
I'll support it.
And Bennett supports. Very good. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0. Motion passes.
Item M, the board will consider a motion to approve the procurement and installation of a security camera system for the new DPW Fire Department facilities from Teoma Systems for $60,448.86, and authorize the Township Superintendent to execute all related contracts, documents, and purchase orders.
So this is, like you said, for the security camera system over there. There are a total of 36 cameras, and they're going to be placed around, nothing that's going to be staring directly at somebody, but like you'll have things in the DPW barn, so we can make sure that we're capturing any potential injuries or anything like that going on there, or just for security reasons in there. And then just exterior doors, anything that where somebody could be coming in, the parking lot areas, things like that, and as well as a new server over there that could store that footage.
Any questions, concerns? Mr. White?
Just after tonight, how many more of these tech, I'll just call them tech purchases for the new building are we likely looking at?
I don't think I have anything else planned that I need to have approved by you. There might be potentially like, a few computers here or there, but that'd likely be under the range of where I would need to bring it to you. So I don't think there's that much else.
All right, I'll make the motion, move forward on the cameras.
Motion.
Support.
Supported by Yancho. 8M. Okay. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luceville. Item N, the board will hear the second reading of the General Ordinance 2025-1 Parks and Recreation Ordinance and consider a motion to adopt the ordinance. Mr. Kimmer with us. Good evening.
All right, good evening, everyone. So earlier, we had the public hearing for ordinance 2025-1, the Park and Rec ordinance. We had the first reading for the ordinance at the February 18th meeting. This ordinance at this time would allow us to establish park rules. Those would be determined at a later date with the board's input on that. So at this time, if you don't have any comments regarding the ordinance, I'd ask that you support the motion to adopt the Park and Rec ordinance.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Supervisor.
Sure. Supported by Ms. Hugo.
Motion.
Any further discussion or
Iverson, supported by
questions?
Hugo. Okay, roll call.
Yes, please.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Item O, the board will consider a motion to authorize the creation of the Parks Superintendent position.
So before you tonight, I'm asking you to consider the creation of the Park Superintendent position in the Parks and Recreation Department. This position would oversee the maintenance division of the Parks and Rec operations, from scheduling to assigning work to having disciplinary abilities to administer discipline to those employees when needed. If we think back to the Parks and Rec Department before it came on here to the township, we did have 7 full-time employees in that department. We have been operating with about 5 to 6 for the last few years. We're really getting to that point where moving us into the future, thinking 5, 10 years down the road, quite honestly, I'd really love to have somebody out there at the park that can kind of be my eyes and ears for maintenance operations at the park, in charge of equipment replacement, maintenance programs for the equipment. No, the position wasn't budgeted for in this budget this year. Our thought process is we probably wouldn't hire on as many seasonal employees as we have before, that it's a good transition right now because we have maybe 4 or 5 kind of long-term seasonals that have been at the parks with us the last few years. They are not returning this year. So right now I think is kind of a good transition to bring in this position. For any, we could think about in the wintertime, I know there's probably some thoughts out there. What could we do to keep the 3 full-time positions here busy at the park in the winter? We have plenty of trail maintenance that we need to do, plowing and salting our non-motorized trails, which we are continuing to build out and build upon year after year. We'd have some cleanup work to do in the ground level trails out there at the park, the non-paved trails that are at the park, where we have to do some wood cleanup and whatnot. We could, take that brush, chip it up, have wood chips to eventually build up our pathways through the woods. So there's definitely in my mind, a need for this position at this time, and I'd appreciate your support, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
So we'll be able to, well, it wasn't budgeted for, we have the funds for it, we've given
Correct. So offsetting a portion of the cost by not hiring as many seasonals, there is a portion of it that we could bill back to the senior millage. I'd like this position to oversee the maintenance operations of the senior center as well. We do have a part-time maintenance person out there at the senior center that I would like to put under the supervision of this position. So there is the potential that we could offset some of the cost of this position through the senior center millage as well.
We have a lot of activities out there that take place during the dark hours after regular business hours. Will this person be available to supervise his employees at that time?
Yep, so that's, you're talking about after-hours activities at the park and, yeah, events and whatnot, yes. So this position would also, they would essentially act as the head grounds person for any of our tournaments or leagues or whatever may be occurring out there, evening, Halloween events, yes, in charge of, the maintenance crew for the special events that we have. Having this position, would allow us to, with the 3 full-time positions, it allow us for more weekend coverage, and not necessarily paying overtime for those weekends by having this person cover some weekends. So we could save potentially on some of our overtime costs as well.
Okay. I'll make the motion that we move forward with the position.
It's a motion by Bennett, supported by Yancho. Very good. Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Kimmer. They would oversee these pickleball courts we're going to get too, right? Okay, future agenda items. Item A, the board strategic planning session is scheduled with Dr. Lou Bender for April 5th. And really hope that all of our board members can make it. It's something that we want the input of each board member that we have, and also I think it'll be beneficial to everybody as well to be able to participate in that. So we had one 4 years ago, and I think it was very instrumental in helping us to set the course for where we wanted to go over the next 4 years, and I'm hoping that this one sets the same pace, right? So with that, anything to add on Mr. Bender, Mr. Limita?
No, we're going to have the staff meeting is going to go ahead and take a look. So your department heads will look at the SWOT analysis to assist you in that. Right now, it's still planned that the board will start in the morning, 8 or 8:30, and then department heads, or maybe not all, but select department heads will be in at 10:30 on that day to help build out that strategic plan on whatever direction the board chooses to pursue for the next 4 years of, the most high priority items. They'll be there as a resource, so we're excited to be a part of it.
I would just ask in all of our board members, which I'm sure they already have been doing, is make notes on what things you see that here in the township that you would like us to look at or consider as far as priorities or areas that maybe we could look at in the future for any of our departments, whether it's fire, police, parks and rec, zoning, whatever it is. What is it that we want to have? I know I've heard some people in some municipalities, they'll say something like, no, let the sky be the limit, and don't worry about paying for it. But, I don't want to go that far here. But I would say let's do some blue sky thinking. Right, Mr. Limina?
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on to board reports. Anything to report on, Ms. Hugo?
No, I just wanted to remind you guys that I will not be there on the 5th of April.
We're going to have to cancel.
I'm so sorry.
You
I
can
didn't realize that
participate.
when I said that, but
Convinced my husband to go on spring break.
We can use Zoom.
I'll be in the car, that's fine.
there you go. But we'll see what we can do on that. Okay, Mr. Yancho, anything to report on?
No.
Mr. Robertson?
The raw materials for our election arrived in the mail yesterday. We've got our envelopes, both our mailing envelopes and our security envelopes arrived 2 days ago. The absentee ballots arrived today, so we've got some more boxes in the office, and we'll be putting out the move ballots on Saturday.
So this is for the school millage.
That is correct, some of the May election.
When does the voting start, just for the public to? We have 9 days of early voting?
No.
No 9 days of early voting?
Days of early voting.
There isn't, you said?
No, it's a school election alone by itself.
So 1 day of voting.
Well, that's correct, and absentee voting, of course.
Right.
And keep in mind that with the changes in the law, we are now mailing absentee ballots out to everyone on the permanent absentee ballot list. So the belief is, and I think our experience last year demonstrates the fact that the turnout will be significantly higher because people are not going to be going through the step of requesting the ballot. They will simply get it because they're on the permanent list. And so you'll have a robust turnout, I should think, for the school election.
Okay. Mr. White, anything to report on?
Just a question, follow-up about what we talked about for the planning commission. Do we need to actually have a motion to refer it to the planning commission, that issue?
Mr. Smith is saying he'll take up the issue without one.
I'll have Giffords Webster do a research on it and see if it's something that we can bring it into planning commission and to the top board.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, just a couple of notes that One of the things that there will be a public hearing on here in the next month or so will be the road commission is bringing up the idea of doing a road diet on Fenton Road and basically putting a left center turn lane from about, Grand Blanc Road north to Hill. And now, mind you, so it'd be a left turn lane along with the lane going each direction, one lane going each direction. Right now, it's 2 lanes going each direction with no center turn lane. While that wouldn't use the entire road, the sides of the road that aren't used for traffic, they would not call those a bike lane or pedestrian or meant for pedestrian traffic, because with traffic going at least 45 miles an hour, I know Chief tries to keep the traffic there over at 45, but I think people oftentimes are driving a little bit faster than that. But regardless, the state nor the feds recommend having pathways or bike lanes next to 45 mile an hour traffic. And I don't think we would necessarily think that's safe either. But going on their recommendations, they will not call it a bike lane or a non-motorized area where those lanes wouldn't be utilized. Mr. Yancho?
Do we, as a township, have anything to say about this road diet? Or-
Well, what they're going to do is they're going to have a public hearing, and they told me that if they get substantial feedback against it, they won't proceed. If it looks like people are in support of it, they'll continue to proceed.
The roadway conditions, to me, would not support such a activity as a road diet. And going north or south, one lane is often better than the other lane, and traffic seems to follow the better roadway.
So you're suggesting people avoid potholes by
Well, it's not necessarily potholes, it's
water?
it's uneven roadway,
or whatever.
uneven pavement. So I would personally be opposed to that.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure that we're aware of when that public hearing is for that. A couple other things, just real quick, on the road commission. One of the things we had was a little bit of flooding on Cook Road as you get closer to Fenton Road, and I was very impressed. We contacted the road commission, and fairly quickly, or our DPW, Mr. Boggs, Mr. Cooley, the road commission actually came out and in the past couple of weeks ditched that, and they had to find a drain that was hidden underneath. They found that, vectored it out, and it looks like it's going to handle a lot more water these days. So flooding, while they said it may still flood, they're working on further solutions. So it was great to have them react so quick. The other thing was we had a situation where somebody dumped a bunch of oil into the curb, a business, and it went into the drain. The road commission, it was determined that it was their drain, and they were out there within a few hours of Mr. Boggs and Mr. Cooley contacting them. They came out and pumped that sewer out and got the oil out of there, and they are pursuing fines or repayment from the business that dumped the oil in the drain, thanks to some vigilant residents who saw it occurring and reported it immediately to us. The road commission director, this next couple of weeks is his last week. He's retiring. The replacement will be from within, and we appreciate Randy Delapasta's great work that he's done. I think he's only been there a short while as director. He's been on the staff for quite a while, but he's done a fabulous job. One of the things that if residents have issues with potholes, one of the things I posted on my social media, now I know the township has shared it on their website as well. Down at the bottom of the page is the problem reporter. And we're going to try and get the word out even more about this, because it's really a great app. For a little while it was down, but it's back up. But what individuals can do and being spring, this is top of mind, right? Because everybody's seeing all the potholes in their subdivision or on their main roads. But you go to the problem reporter, Genesee County Road Commission problem reporter, you click on the link, and you can actually go to the map and pinpoint where the problem is in the road. You can then put in, it has a drop-down list that you can actually detail the type of problem is, whether it is a dead animal, whether it's a pothole, whatever it is, you can detail that. You put in your name, phone number, and email. If they have any questions, they'll call you. The email address allows them to respond back to you and tell you that they have fixed it or their problem with fixing it and when it will get fixed, but it's their way of communicating because they want to communicate back to our residents that, that they are on this. So it really helps with being able to take a look at how many cases are open, how many are closed, but it also, you can see if anybody else has reported that problem and how many people have reported it and how long it takes them to repair that issue. So I'd encourage people to use that. There's even a video that we'll post that shows you how to use it. With that, 911, the 911 consortium continues to debate the whole issue of dispatching EMS units based on exclusive contracts versus the state statute, which requires the closest available EMS unit. Continues to be a bone of contention, and I don't see it going away anytime soon, but we're continuing to raise that question with a number of other municipalities. We have a resident, or not a Grand Blanc Township resident, but a resident of Genesee County that you may have seen in the media that her son passed away, and thankfully one of our police officers met up with the woman and her son and escorted them to the hospital in their vehicles. But she had some issues, and she's been very vocal at the 911 meetings. And we're going to continue to make sure that this issue of dispatching EMS units, that we want it to get back to following the state, what we believe is a state law and what our legal opinions have said is as well. So with that, Mr. Limita?
I will keep the board apprised of the progress with the fire chief. Is expecting that his background check will go through. I will give you the date when we expect the anticipated start date, but I do believe it'll be within 30 days now that you've moved that forward. And Plant Moran is on site conducting our annual comprehensive financial audit. So you, as board members, may get contacted, probably an email or a phone call if they don't hear from you, asking for some information. Please respond back to them. They'll let us know if you don't, but we'll reach out to you. But it's important, though, they just select randomly board members to just ask any questions about what happened during 2024, if you have any specific concerns that they should be looking into, things like that. And then as officers of the board, you guys will be pulled aside by the auditors as well as treasurer, clerk, and supervisor to answer any specific questions that they may have for your departments or to ask for any observations that you may have or any concerns about our financial dealings from 2024. They'll be on site for probably the next 3 weeks. And unfortunately, our assistant finance director has accepted another position, and she's going to be leaving us shortly. We will be getting to advertise for that position again. Her prior employer called her and offered her quite a bit of money to come back, and she has the luxury of being able to work remotely for 4 days from home, and with a new baby on the way. It's awful tempting, and I cannot compete with the benefits of her prior employer. She's been phenomenal. Chantel Blevins, absolutely phenomenal employee. We're sorry to see her go, but we will be beginning to do the search for a new assistant finance director.
Okay. Just two brief comments. One is we have the Grand Blanc Expo put on by the Chamber this Saturday that anybody, I know our board members a number of them are volunteering. We've got a few residents that are going to volunteer with us to man that booth. We also have on Saturday, April 26th, our community cleanup. And we're looking for sponsors in the business world, individuals, what have you, as well as groups. So it could be a church, could be a civic organization, what have you, that want to come out with your group, could be Boy Scout groups, what have you. We're trying to grow this thing. We had probably over 100 people last year helping us with the cleanup. Starts out in the morning at 9 a.m. with basically some donuts and coffee at Faith Lutheran Church right next to the high school. And then we take you by MTA bus to the cleanup sites. Last year we cleaned up over 2.5 tons worth of litter. From there, we come back, we're back at Faith Lutheran by noon, and we have hot dogs and whatever else, chips for lunch, and we set you loose. But I think everybody else had a goodie bag last year, a bag to put some items in or something, right? And what's that? Trash bags and whatever, able to put all your stuff in.
Trash bag, goodie bag, same thing.
Gloves.
And we have all the things you'll need, from gloves to the actual things that pick up the trash so you don't have to use your hands. But we would love to have lots of more volunteers. It goes much quicker with more hands helping us. So we're going to be shaking the trees for more volunteers. So with that, I think we're in. Yes?
Are we gonna, obviously, we're gonna probably do the interstate areas again, but where else are we gonna go this year? Because I assume like Cook Road we were on, I doubt we probably need to go there. Have we figured?
I'll be glad to take some input from anybody. So if you have some ideas on where, right now is a perfect time, because with the snow melt and all the, everything's still not growing quite yet. We're able to see all the litter along the roads. The Dort Highway is covered by some GMSPO employees that come here and clean that up. So the Dort Highway section, I'm not too concerned about. They'll be out cleaning that up before we know it, a couple of times a year. But if you have any input on other areas, please let myself or Melissa Roberts know. And we're going to try and map out in advance. Especially with the MTA buses, we have to know where we're going, because those things don't turn around on a dime. So, okay. All right, so.
A motion to adjourn in order, Mr.
Yes,
Supervisor.
supported by Ms. Hugo.
Robertson and Hugo adjourn
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
at 7:22 PM.
Thank you, everyone.